I was playing video games since before I can remember, and out of all my highly dopaminergic habits, that was the hardest one for me to get a control over. And I just want to give you the 80/20 of overcoming video game addiction right off the bat. And that's finding the proper replacement for video games in your life. And to explain why finding the proper replacement is so important, I need to explain why video games are so addicting. And the reason that video games are so addicting is because they tap into so many different natural and innate values and desires of us humans. So, for myself, the big reason I loved playing video games was the feeling of progression. I mean, if you've played any sort of MMO, you know the constant level ups, quest completions, discoveries, these things provide a constant stream of dopamine and feeling of progression that we all desire as humans. Beyond that, you also feel like you're contributing to other people when you're on a team, when you're playing with friends. It satisfies that desire for social connection when you're playing with your friends online. And these desires for progression, contribution, social connection, these are all healthy and important values and needs we have. We've evolved to have these needs. They help us to survive, to thrive in a community for millions of years. And now the issue is that video games are hijacking these needs and satisfying them in an extremely dopaminergic way. And that's why they're so addicting, is because while satisfying these needs in the past required a lot of effort and created dopamine, now with video games, all it does is consume that dopamine. It doesn't create any because of the low effort it takes. It doesn't require a lot of physical movement or focus. You can just play, turn your brain off, and so you just consume all of this dopamine, and it decreases your motivation to pursue other things, like things that will improve your life. And so this was the case with myself. And so once you understand that these things are satisfying these essential needs that you have, you can figure out how to replace those needs, or rather fulfill those needs in a less dopaminergic way. So think about, what is it about video games that you love so much? Maybe it's that feeling of progression. Maybe it's that feeling of contributing, or maybe it's the type of game, something you're learning there. You can apply that thing to another area of your life to replace video games. So, for example, with myself, the first thing that I replaced video games with was going on a mission for my church. And this allowed me to receive that same feeling of progression as I was learning new skills. I was also interacting with other people, so that kind of replaced the interaction I was getting with my friends online. I continued to apply the same principle as I went to college, learning about psychology, progressing in that way, and then into taking my first jobs and learning skills and progressing there. And so these things have allowed me to stay away from video games and fulfill that need. And so this is kind of the 80/20. If you can find something that satisfies that need for you, you're most of the way there. And now, in the beginning, when you're replacing this thing, it's going to be pretty difficult. It can take time for your brain to sort of reset for you to be able to enjoy those other things. And that's kind of where stacking other tools comes in. And you can check out my guide in the description about that. And I'm going to provide one specific tool that I think will help a lot as you're overcoming video games later in this video. But one kind of mindset to keep in mind as you're changing this habit is understanding that video games will always be there. You will always be able to spike your dopamine. And at any given moment, you could feel that happiness, that joy from spiking your dopamine. And whatever you replace video games with, it likely won't bring that same spike. However, over time, your net dopamine, your baseline dopamine will go up, and your net level of motivation and happiness will be higher than if you did give in to playing video games. Because video games spikes your dopamine and leads to a crash, decreasing your happiness and motivation in the long run. And so if you can have this mindset and remind yourself when you have that craving to play that game again, to remember that it's going to reduce, it's going to feel worse later, basically. It's going to decrease your motivation to do other things. Now, one tool to kind of have as you're starting this journey, or maybe you're trying it again, is to think about, are you a cold turkey person, or are you a kind of wean down person, meaning do you slowly decrease the amount of time you're playing video games, or do you just cut it out completely? And so you can kind of figure this out through experimentation. If you try to cut down a little bit, but then when you play a little bit you find yourself just craving it more and it's really hard to resist, then maybe try cold turkey. Now if you're trying the weaning down, I would suggest delaying video games as much as possible during the day and starting your day off with whatever you're replacing video games with, whatever is most important for you to accomplish. And this is because when you sleep, you replenish dopamine in your brain, and so it's the most motivated you're going to be throughout the day. And if you can use that time, take advantage of that to do the thing that you're replacing video games with, then you're going to enjoy that more, and you might even be able to sustain that throughout the day. And just go for as long as you can, and as you keep progressing in this way, eventually your brain is sort of going to reset, and you're going to be able to enjoy those less dopaminergic things more and more. Now, if you want to talk with me and create personal game plan for you to overcome video game addiction, then also check out the link in the description and let's have a chat. And subscribe if you're interested in more videos like this.